Hey, world schooling and traveling families. Are you or someone you know planning for Italy this spring? Join us on the vibrant streets of southern Italy at our Naples World School pop up hub from April 27th to May 3rd. We'll explore ancient aqueducts, wander the art filled Spanish quarters, and take epic trips to Pompeii. It's the perfect chance to build community and travel buddies while soaking up the local culture. Ready to join us? Head over to the Facebook group to check the latest kid counts, ask questions, and connect with other families. I can't wait to see you all in Naples this April. Discover how to turn the dream of a European summer into a sustainable reality as I sit down with Maddy Novich, a New York based mom of three who has mastered the art of summering abroad. Maddy reveals her blueprint for spending up to 11 weeks in Europe each year by leveraging home exchanges to eliminate housing costs and utilizing local summer camps to give both parents and kids a truly immersive vacation. This conversation is packed with actionable tips on swapping city expenses, finding the best biking cities, and embracing the ups and downs of long-term family travel. Welcome to the Wander World School podcast. I'm Susie, a travel-loving money nerd, mom of two, and our family lives between Spain and Colorado. On this show, we discuss the stories, logistics, and finances of traveling families and the many ways to learn along the way. Today, we get to know Maddy Novich. Welcome to the show. Tell me more about you and your family.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Like Susie said, I'm Maddy Novich. I'm a New York based mom of three, and I am a criminal justice professor by trade, a content creator by hobby, and a global traveler. We summer abroad every year. I'm excited to share what I've learned, what we do, and how we make it happen in terms of finances and childcare.
And how old are your children?
I have three. My oldest is 12, my middle is 8, and my youngest is 4.
So great ages for summer camps abroad, those eye-opening experiences for little ones. Before we talk about your family travels and your summer camps in Europe, I'd love to hear more about where your love for travel started.
International travel was never huge in my family. It was very expensive. I'm from the Midwest, so traveling internationally was just challenging. It was just one of those things where we did what travel we could. My dad loves traveling, and so he would take us on these epic road trips all over the country. And we would do from Chicago to Florida to Arizona to like wherever. So I did a lot of domestic travel. But I remember my 16th birthday wish was to go to London with my best friend. And my dad made that happen. And that was really like my first international trip. And it was one of the best trips I had ever had. And it was, really ignited this love of being in Europe and being like, oh, this place is so much different and there's so much to learn and see and do in Europe. And so I got very excited about that. Then I ended up going to college. I started traveling a lot more. I majored in Chinese. I also speak Mandarin as my second language. And so I started going back and forth to China a lot. And then I lived in China for a while. And then I met my now husband. And when I first met him, and this is kind of a funny story I actually don't share very often, is when I first met him, he was like a New Yorker. And he goes, well, why would I ever need to leave New York? I go, I'm sorry. I don't know if this is going to work because like I need to travel and I know we just met and I know we're madly in love, but like in 3 months, I'm moving to China for a year. So like you can either come with me or we'll just reconnect like in a year when I get back. And he's like, no, 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 no. Like you're the love of my life. And I barely have a passport, but like I'm going to make it happen. So he moved with me to China and we had this great, year. And then we came back and we're like, we need to keep traveling. So it was just one of these things where it just evolved and then it is became very much part of my lifestyle and then our lifestyle as a couple.
And moving to China is like 0 to 100. He's like, let's just jump right in. So that's very adventurous.
It's very exciting. And it was not, Beijing or Shanghai, it was Shenzhen because I was doing manufacturing at the time because as a Chinese speaker, it was really helpful for American companies to have like somebody on the ground who could speak the language. And I was working in a completely Chinese office. And so my goal was to become fluent in the language. And I'm still conversational. I still dream in Chinese, but I haven't used it in a very long time. But once you're in Asia, it was easier to travel. We went to Thailand, we went to the Philippines, which was amazing. I had already been to Korea and Japan. And like, it was just awesome. I spent a lot of time in Hong Kong and it was great in Macau.
I love talking languages, and Chinese is, from my understanding, a very difficult one to learn. About how many years do you feel like it took you? Obviously, living there, working with people in the language certainly helps. How long did it take to acquire that language?
Years, and I started late, right? I discovered it my freshman year of college, and I was like, "This is what I wanna do with my academic career." Yeah, I was at Iowa State University, right? So I originally thought I was gonna go into fashion design, took one of my electives as Chinese, said, "Just kidding, this is what I wanna do. I really wanna study Chinese." So I transferred to community college and then transferred to my where I ended up graduating, which was the University of Pennsylvania, and went into their East Asian Languages and Studies program focusing on Chinese. And I just, like, loved it, right? So it took probably 4 years of intense studying, moving to China, and what's interesting, I think, about Chinese is I actually found it easier than when I studied French because it's just like the foundations of the language are more memorization focused than understanding conjugations, which is not something that you have to do in Chinese. And so there's a lot of memorization. And I think one of my stronger areas is memory. So like it was easier for me to pick up than say French, actually.
That's very interesting. I am in the thick of conjugating Spanish verbs, and it is not always easy, but there's hope. If language acquisition is part of your goal, you started as a young adult, but as an adult, and that there is an opportunity for that. There's always room for to learn new things and new adventures.
Absolutely. And we're gonna be in Spain this summer, and my goal, I keep telling my students, my goal is to have functional Spanish by the end of the year. So I'm studying my Duolingo. I'm going into I'm going to do a Spanish lessons while we're in Spain this summer, and it's you can start at any age. And one of our good friends is Dave Epstein, who talks about range, right? And you don't have necessarily this huge advantage by starting when you're younger. It's just like one of these things that you should be studying whenever it is that you want to, and like expose yourself. And it's never too late to learn a new skill.
Yes, never too late. And you mentioned your plans a little bit for this summer, which we'll get into, but you have spent the last few summers heading over to Europe for summer camps with the kids. How did that get started? How did you find the camps? Fill me in on all the details about how you made this work for your family.
So I should say, like, it has been a progression right now. For your listeners, a little context. We spend between 9 and 11 weeks in Europe every summer, bouncing between different countries, back to back. Every 2 weeks or so, we're moving into a new location and putting our kids into local summer camps in whatever new location we're in. But it didn't start that way, right? It was this gradual discovery. And we started like most normal American families, which is 2 weeks, right? We got 2 weeks of vacation. So we went over to Amsterdam because this is one of our favorite places to go. We're a big cycling and cargo biking family here in New York, and we like to say that we got radicalized in Amsterdam because everybody does it. So we started going to Amsterdam because it just was such an easy way of life for us. The biking, getting around, everyone spoke English. It was just easy. And while we were there one summer, we realized, if we were in New York during the middle of summer, kids would be in a summer camp, right? And we would be going off and doing like we would be working or we'd be doing adult things or whatever. And so sort of a light bulb went on. And I said, yeah, let me look and see if there's any summer camps to enroll our now, he was 4 at the time. And lo and behold, we found this Lego engineering camp that was something like maybe $350 for the week. It included snack and it was drop off from maybe 8:30 to 4 p.m. And we were just like, why is our Lego loving son not in this? Instead of being bored with us at the museums, like we should put him there. We'll go enjoy the museums and we'll pick him up and we'll go to like a playground or do something afterwards. So we enrolled him, dropped him off. We picked him up the first day and he goes, this was the greatest thing I've ever done. Can I come back tomorrow? We enrolled him for the whole week. My husband and I turned to each other and we're like, we are really relaxing now. We are on vacation. We are having so much fun. And then when we returned to Amsterdam the next year, we enrolled them in this nature camp. Every year, we just started coming back to Amsterdam. And then we're like, well, wait a minute, maybe we can do it in other cities. So we started extending our travel where it was 2 weeks in Amsterdam and then a month in Amsterdam. And then we're like, well, maybe we can start somewhere where we're like 2 weeks in Berlin and then a month in Amsterdam or something like that. And we just started doing these add ons of these different cities, and each one had camps. And they always had a great time. And of course, we did our due diligence on the camps, right? These were long established. Some of them were referred by local expats in different cities. And so it totally changed the way we travel. And now, whenever we go, wherever we go, we kind of prioritize summer camps because that's how we all are able to relax and enjoy the vacation.
And the cool thing about summer camps is the whole goal from wherever you are is that it's different than school. There's things that kids can deep dive into, and it's not meant to be just academic. Kids can be kids and explore new things and play and have outdoor time. And not every family has the capacity to provide those opportunities over the summer, either because they have to work or, just various family interests. But it's a way to blend some really kid friendly opportunities while also giving parents the opportunity to travel and experience a location. I know most people are shocked at the prices of camps in a lot of US cities. What might someone experience if they head abroad?
Made a reel, and I'm gonna link the reel at later
And I'll be
about
sure to
the
share it. Yeah.
summer 2024 cost breakdown, right? Because we're also a very financially conscious family. The biggest cost for us is the flights from New York to wherever we are basing or starting our travels in Europe, and also the internal travel. And we do multi city. So we usually start, say, in Amsterdam, and then we'll fly home from Paris. I want to say between $800 and $900 a ticket, and we're buying five of them. With that being said, we always try and leverage credit card points like the Chase Sapphire Reserve credit card or when the Amex Platinum was offering its big bonus. So we will open credit cards when we find a worthwhile deal that makes sense for adding it in. So that's the biggest expense. But we do something called home exchange. So housing is this would it normally be the biggest expense for most families. But we figured out that if we swapped our New York City apartment for housing wherever we're going, housing is free. We spend nothing on it. The home exchange has like an annual fee of like maybe $300, but then that covers unlimited swaps. And so for power users like us, it's a no-brainer. We will do 9 to 11 weeks of free housing. And people always ask, well, how do you do that in New York? Like, is it allowed? It is allowed in New York City. We actually renting our current apartment and we had it written into our lease to be above board, but it doesn't violate New York City housing laws because there's no money exchange. It's like having family or friends stay over. So as long as that is allowed in the bylaws, then it's technically allowed in what you're doing. So that big expense is gone. And then the rest of the summer expenses are what you would spend locally, right? Groceries, eating out, doing activities. So whatever that monthly budget is for what you are spending locally, you would just transfer it over to Europe. And I would say it's maybe around the same. I think we spent something like $15,000 total for our entire summer abroad, and that included groceries, and I have 3 kids, and they eat just enormous amounts of food, right? It included the cost of summer camps, it included our cost of flights, going out, whatever, my husband and I wanted to do independently. So, for us, 9 to 11 weeks for $15,000 really isn't that bad because we're already spending a certain amount when we're located in New York City. Now, New York camps, which is usually like a huge, sticker shock, costs some between 7 to 800 to $900 per week per kid. Now you have 3 of them and it's kind of like what are we even, what are we doing here? So it's very expensive. That's sort of how we justify and work within a reasonable budget that's comfortable for us.
And I love that you've talked about swapping expenses. When you travel longer term, you're able to do that even easier through things like home exchange. And again, you'd be spending this money here or there, might as well be on the French Riviera doing it.
100%.
But home exchange is amazing, and thanks for bringing up the legality of it, and of course, always check with your jurisdiction and where you rent. Even if you rent, it is still possible. I'm sure New York City is a hot spot. You probably never have a hard time finding people who want to stay in New York City, but regardless of where you're at, like, there might be someone who really wants to go to that location. You just never know what is going to draw someone to that location. And do you often do reciprocal, or do you mainly do it the points, the guest points?
So it's almost always reciprocal because people want to come to New York. We live right in Manhattan. We're lucky we have a duplex, a really a big apartment. So it makes it really tempting. And so usually it's reciprocal. This summer actually we're on a lot of points because that's just how it worked out. We actually prefer having people here than leaving our apartment empty because as a criminal justice professor, an unoccupied space is a vulnerable target. So we actually really like, and in case there's like inclement weather, we have this duplex, but our garden flooded. And so we were so thankful that we had home exchangers who were able to address the water like right away. So we had no damage. Our super came in, but we might not have known if we didn't have people living here. Again, they're like house sitters. They're these trusted families, these individuals who are seasoned, who have the same like-minded global experience. And another part of this is people always ask, well, what about your stuff? Like, honestly, maybe this is just a me. To me, everything's replaceable. Like, I just don't care about stuff. Right. And so, okay, if my bed breaks, I'll get a new bed. Right. It's still less than the cost of 11 weeks in Europe. Right. My TV breaks, whatever, I'll get a new TV. Right. And actually, Home Exchange does insure it, but we've never had any issues. We've had one broken mug, and the family that broke it replaced it with a nicer one. We take care of each other's stuff. So, yeah, I think it's a whole mindset. People always are like, well, what about people sleeping in your bed? I'm like, what about sleeping in a hotel bed where there's thousands of bodies? Like I'll take my one bed with this one nice family with my mattress cover. I'm not worried about it.
Exactly. You bring up great points. We're doing a home exchange to Naples in April, and they're coming here. We're going there. I just love that concept of looking out for each other's spaces while we get to explore a new location. And do you work, well, you have summers off? How does that work for that extended time frame over the summers?
So, as a professor, I am typically off, but now that I do content as a hobby, I actually am doing content, but that's my own schedule. My husband actually works New York hours most of the summer. So, we will do camps, we will do us time, and then I will take over evening shift with the kids, and my husband will pop in and out between meetings and have dinner with us. And, if he can't help put the kids to bed, but we just sort of have fallen into this routine where we get time together, we get time as a family, and then my husband does his work and I take over most of the bulk of the responsibilities. Sometimes we'll hire babysitters to just be an extra set of hands if we can find a trusted babysitter locally. And that's also amazing and highly recommend doing that too.
The hours from East Coast to Europe make that remote working life really doable. What does this summer locations look like for you?
This summer is going to be an amazing summer. It's our longest summer ever, and we're hitting mostly new locations, actually. So we'll start in Barcelona, which is not new, but we'll be there for 1 week, and our kids will be doing the Little Makers Camp in Barcelona. After Barcelona, we head down to Valencia. We'll be 2 weeks in Valencia with Olay Summer Camp. And after Valencia, our daughter was actually invited to Switzerland for sleepaway camp. So we'll be flying over to Geneva, dropping her off in Leysin, Switzerland with village camps. We're going to then go nearby because we obviously can't be too far. So we'll be in Lyon, France for 2 weeks. And then we go to Annecy, France for the remainder of her summer camp. And then we'll pick her back up in Geneva. And then we fly to Athens. And we're going to be joining Boundless Life for the first time, which, if you're not familiar with Boundless Life, it is an all inclusive option where you do housing, world schooling, and co-working spaces and community. So we're going to be joining a cohort in Syros. So we'll be there for 3.5 weeks. And then, because my son is very obsessed with coins and Greek history, we're going to be spending a week in Athens just with the family, no camps. So then we'll be back by beginning of September.
And the summer break schedule in many countries in Europe seems to align pretty well with New York, right?
So we pull our kids out a couple of days early, and they end technically like last week of June, but we leave by June 20th, around Juneteenth, June 20th, because it's a natural day off anyway from school. So we leave then. And then their school doesn't start till after Labor Day in September. So it's late. We normally do 9 weeks because my school, as a college professor, goes back earlier. So I'm usually back in August because I start my semester. But this coming year, I'm actually on sabbatical. So I'll be off for the full year. So there's no rush to come back. So timing worked out absolutely perfectly.
That's perfect. Give you a couple more weeks. That late summer in Europe is spectacular. And what other locations have you done in the past, either cities or even camp names, if you remember, that you would highly recommend for people to look into?
Amsterdam's a big one. It's called Wow Family Center. I was there last year. I was doing a study abroad with some of my college students, and I brought my littlest one and enrolled her in Wow Family Center. She loves it. She's still talking about going back to the camp with the ball pit. We've done Amsterdam, we've done Copenhagen, we've done Berlin, we've done Vienna. We've done Krakow, highly recommend Poland. Let's see, this summer I said we're doing Barcelona, we're doing Valencia, we're doing idiosyncrasies. So for the first couple of years, we just went back to Amsterdam, and so we would do a couple of different, like the Lego engineering camp. We did a nature camp in Amsterdam, and we did those a couple of times in a row because they were so great. If I were recommending a camp for people to go to in the beginning, obviously it's all dependent on age and kid interests, but Wow Family Center is great because it starts at age 3, goes to age 10. Great for kids who like indoors and outdoors, arts and crafts, that kind of thing. The nature camp, Tarragon Nature Camp, was a huge one in Amsterdam. It's a little bit like Lord of the Flies. Like your kids come home extremely dirty and a little bit bloody, and like they love it. So, like, big fan of that camp. Berlin camp was great, especially if your kids were learning German. I did not know that when I enrolled them. I was just like, dropped our kids off and we're like, it feels like Kuman, like they're going to school, whatever, like it'll be fine. And then I figured, I turned to my husband and I go, they're either gonna stage a coup at the end of the day and not go back, or they're gonna love it, and they loved it, even though it was, like, half of it was, like, learning German. But other camps, like Kids Camp America, which is all over all over Germany. I mean, I now, because of how aggressively we do this, I've been building a database of summer camps that are either recommended, I've come across in research, where I have over 400, close to 500 summer camps, like, just in this organized database by country, age, activities. So something when I'm like, "Oh, what am I gonna do this summer?" And I'll go back to my database and, like, search, right? And I think, like, next summer, for example, we wanna do more of Scandinavia. So I've been doing research in Norway and Stock and Sweden, and there's summer camps there. So our kids are gonna go there probably next year.
And do you find that the age range for camps is quite workable with the kids' ages that you have, that you're able to either choose one camp for all of them, or how does that logistically work?
Great question. So the age range really depends. I'd say the girls 4 and my 8-year-old go together, or my 8 and my 12-year-old will go together. So this past summer, oh, I forgot we did Edinburgh. Oh, that was great. I mean, also Lord of the Flies. Like it was rain or shine. They came home and they were disgusting every day. It was great. But my older kids would go to a camp like that. I find it's harder to find camps for younger kids. There are some programs and some camps that do it, but it's definitely harder to find. A lot of them start by age 5, 4 or 5. And so, depending on my interest, my 12-year-old is really interested in, like, Minecraft, right? He's a little bit of a nerd in the best kind of way. So, like, I won't put him in arts and crafts camp. He really wouldn't like it. So, for example, when we did a summer camp in Vienna, we did 2 different locations. The girls were in this multi-activity early kid camp, which was great. And then my son went to Minecraft coding camp and he had a blast, right? And so that was like 2 different ones. The Wow Family Center would take all 3, but like Little Makers is going to take all 3. And I think that'll be great because they're doing a bunch of different things. Same with the Valencia camp. It's like a mix of outdoor and indoor. And so it really depends. You can definitely find camps for all the different ages. And I prioritize convenience, to be totally honest. Like if you're picking a camp, pick a housing that's like very close by. Make pick up and drop off super easy, and then pick the camp that will take all 3 of them or are easy to get to if there's two drop off locations.
Exactly. When do you start looking? I'm used to, like, literally, summer camps already sold out in
Yeah.
Colorado as of January, and maybe
Yes.
even earlier in the East Coast. And then here in Spain, the conversation is just starting with the other parents, like, "What are we doing this summer?" And it gives you some more leeway perhaps, but I
Yes.
don't know if some of these camps in other locations are quite popular. What has your experience been with the timing?
So it depends on the location, right? So I start looking early because even if they don't open for registration, I like to be on their mailing list. Like if there's a camp I know I'm going to go to, then I will look historically when they offered it. And then I will reach out and say, hey, I'm coming to your city because we plan our summers about 6 to 8 months in advance, right? So during this coming summer, we will plan next summer, basically. We have a sense of what we want to do. We will change it based on camp availability and home exchange housing and, plan it that way. So I'll start looking for historical camp data as soon as we know which places are on our short list for the summer and reach out to those camps. But I find that most camps in Spain, most camps in France haven't even opened up registration yet. And we're in March, right? I have found that sometimes their websites aren't updated. So if I just reach out and I'm like, oh, hey, camps in Italy, for example, half of them have their registration open, half of them don't have their registration open. So, like, I just find the earlier you look for me, because I'm type A, right? I'm very organized, the easier it is. With that being said, we were in Vienna like a couple of summers ago, and it was like a week before, and we're like, "Oh, we didn't sign Jack up for a summer camp. Maybe we should find something for him." And we just enrolled him in the Minecraft coding camp, and he had a great time. But I highly recommend doing it sooner than later just because it helps with all the other logistics.
Give your family the ultimate travel tool, the gift of language. Preply's one-on-one native speaking tutors make world schooling more immersive and fun, fitting perfectly into your busy travel schedule. Whether you're preparing for Spain or Japan, start talking today. I've been using Preply for years with great success. Use the link in the show notes to get 70% off your first lesson. And getting on those mailing lists so you can start to get an idea. That's super helpful. I know sometimes there are challenges. What are some of those challenges that you have experienced and overcome in the past? And then, of course, we'll touch on the wins as well.
Yes, absolutely. Once you do it a few times, you do get used to it. I think our biggest challenges, or at least our biggest anxiety points, are is if our kids get sick or injured while we're abroad, or like if we get sick or injured. So we always do travel insurance. But last summer, my daughter dislocated her toe, and it was like we didn't know if it was broken. One of my besties is an ER doctor, so I messaged her, and she goes, nothing's gonna change tonight, it's a toe, right? You could deal with it tonight, you could deal with it first thing in the morning. So we pop over to the emergency room in the evening, it was like a 3-hour wait. We didn't have anything with us, we didn't know what was going on, so we're like, "You know what? We'll come back first thing in the morning." We came back first thing in the morning, in and out in 2 hours, dislocated, everything was patched up, right? But, like, you never know, right? So that's a big anxiety point of dealing with kids and travel and being outside your comfort zone. I always recommend carrying a first aid kit. Now we have these virtual visits, so we make sure that whatever doctor office that we are regularly going to allows for virtual visits, and we've done some of those before. Other than that, like, I can't stress enough that using home exchange and going into a lived-in home really reduces a lot of that stress, right? It's like, okay, if you're dealing with flight delays, you're getting in at like 2 in the morning. What are you gonna do for food with these kids, right? Like milk. But if you're going to a family's home, you know there's gonna be pasta, right? And the families don't care, right? They're like, take whatever you want, make yourself comfortable. So I think it's a little bit of that we've figured out ways to offset those anxieties. For the wins, I'd say planning summers like we do, which are these really epic back to back, really takes a team effort. And so my husband is amazing. He's like full on green flag supportive partner. He takes over the spreadsheets, the flights, like, I do a lot of the contacting and the, messaging and the finding of the camps, and he does all of the budgeting, ticketing, right? Sharing our spreadsheets, sharing our Google Calendar. And I think it would be a lot more stressful if this planning was on one person like me, right? But because it's so shared, it really makes it doable. Yeah.
And probably more enjoyable because sometimes the planning is part of the adventure. Yeah. I'd like to wrap up though and hear a little more about you in our lightning round. You can only ever live or visit in 3 countries. What countries are they?
The Netherlands, Denmark, France. Those are my 3 favorites right now. But it does change depending on where we've been recently. So, like, I might change my mind next summer. But Amsterdam, the Netherlands is amazing for biking, right? We're a big biking family. Copenhagen, Denmark, I mean, like, also biking, just history and gorgeous. And then France, I mean, it's such a diverse country. Like, you go to the north, you go to the south, you go to the west, you go to the east, and the food is amazing and the croissants are amazing. So, right now, those are my top 3.
What is your best or worst food that you've ever tried?
This goes back to my days living in China where we would play, "Will it make me sick?" So we didn't even know what we were eating half the time because, again, we were like in Shenzhen, Southern Industrial Shenzhen 20 years ago or whatever. And it was like, I don't really know what I'm eating, but like, hey, I'm going to try it anyway. And some of it was absolutely disgusting, and some of it was less disgusting, and some of it was good. And so you kind of didn't know what you were going to get. And so I would say, like, the mystery dishes that I would eat in Southern China were definitely maybe the worst foods I've ever eaten.
For sure. What is the best sunset or sunrise that you can recall?
My son must have been 3. We were in Rome. We did a trip to Italy, and it was, this amazing trip. We did Venice, Florence, and Rome, and we did a sunset photo session with photographer, which is like our favorite thing to do. And it was so incredible that the photos is just this like purple blue sunset overlooking the Vatican in this like museum in the center of Rome. So that would be my most incredible sunset.
Sounds lovely. And what is the first thing you do when you arrive somewhere new?
Unpack. I walk in and I unpack my bags. We only travel with one medium suitcase for all 5 of us. So everyone gets their little packing cube and they unpack their packing cube on whatever, surface or drawer has been left for them.
This is where packing for summer can make it a little easier, right? You're going to a house that has laundry, I'm sure. It's really easy to still live your life when you're at a home exchange house. So I love that.
We also take the mindset of like, it's more convenient to pack light and buy locally what we might need than to try and pack everything and bring it with us. Big fan of that.
Exactly. What is a piece of advice for a family just starting out that is wanting to plan summer camps abroad? What is something like that they could start out with?
Pick the country or location with the least amount of friction. Make it as easy and seamless as an experience as you can. Amsterdam is for us was the easiest. It's a direct flight from New York. It's 7 hours. Everybody spoke English. Getting around the city is super easy. The camps are all in English. Like everything, there was just very little friction to get started. So I would say for families starting out, pick whatever your native language is or a language that you're really, really comfortable in. Pick a location. Bigger cities tend to have more camp options and start there. If you're primarily a Spanish speaking family, like Barcelona, Valencia, Madrid, these are all amazing places to start. English speakers, Amsterdam, England, Scotland, like go, and it's also easy to get around places like Edinburgh by bus or, same with, Barcelona, you could get bikes or their public transit's really easy. So reduce the amount of friction. Don't start off going somewhere that's totally different because you want to really experience what it is like and overcome those anxieties and sort of nervousness that can happen when you're just starting to put your kids in a totally different place.
Very true. If language is a concern for families, I've seen, at least in Spain, that there are quite a few English academies or English schools in a city that will have summer camp options. And so I know that someone there will speak English as well, because that is really their whole goal is to offer this bilingual experience to the kids. Spanish speaking kids are going to be so excited to have a English speaker in their group for the summer. It just seems like it's a win-win culturally as well.
100%.
Most cities will have some type of English school or academy or bilingual schools that they would love to have English speakers come
Absolutely.
join
And I
them.
always recommend people look at international schools because the primary language is going to be English. They almost always offer summer camps. Again, our threshold, like for picking a camp, like our number one priority was that our kids could communicate with the staff. So we needed to make sure that the staff spoke my children's language. That's English. So we would pick camps only where the staff spoke English and
For
that we
sure.
could communicate with them. So,
Absolutely. Because kids will kick a ball around whether they speak the same language or not. But it
yeah,
is great to know that the staff there can be responsive to your kids' needs throughout the day.
exactly.
Absolutely. And I'll ask the last question because you mentioned cargo biking. And I love that you share a lot about biking around New York City and just the ease of doing that in a big city in the US. What is your favorite thing about cargo biking and about being a biking family?
I would say the efficiency and the freedom. There's so many benefits, but, like, my favorite thing is I know that I'm gonna get to where I need to be in the most efficient amount of time, right? I don't deal with traffic, I don't deal with parking, I can just go and be where I'm gonna be. The other part is once you have that efficiency and you have that liberation from being dependent on cars and from being dependent on public transit is the freedom that you get. It's like we can go anywhere with these bikes. And so I think that's been really amazing. And then, of course, it's eco-friendly, it's environmentally forward, it has very positive mental benefits, it has huge generational change benefits. It's a really amazing way to incorporate movement and mobility into your life that can really be transformative, not only for our family, but for all the families around us and for the future.
And European cities often have more infrastructure that is supportive of bikes. Cities are more compact, so you're actually not even going as far on a bike. It just makes it that much more approachable. So it's probably a good place to start a biking lifestyle, rent a bike or two, and then, maybe bring that back to wherever your home country is if that's something that you're passionate about. But where can people find you to learn more about summer camps, biking, all the cool things that you share about?
You can primarily find me on Instagram at Cargo Bike Mama, MOMMA. I also have a website, www.cargobikemama.com. And I always encourage people to sign up for my free newsletter, which literally email you summer camp options, travel tips, cargo biking tips, and what to do in New York City.
Thank you so much
Thank you for having me, Susie.
That's a wrap on today's episode. If you enjoyed it, please do me a huge favor and tell a friend or traveling family about the show. And hey, don't miss out on bonus content, behind the scenes, and more on Instagram, Facebook, or Substack. Thanks for tuning in. Go send this episode to a friend. See you next time.